Central Falls, Rhode Island, was a city full of crime in the 1980s and was dubbed cocaine capital of the Northeast by the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration. But at the same time, it was one of those places where people watched out for each other. So for kids, it was a relatively safe place to roam, as there seemed to be someone always watching out for the kids in the neighbourhood. Though this would change on the 28th of May 1988, and the whole community of Central Falls would never forget this tragedy for years to come. I'm hoping to bring more light and attention to this case, as this is still unsolved. Hopefully, one day, that will change. 7-year-old Michelle Norris, a first grader at Captain Harold Hunt School, was born to a mother, Julia Tager Norris, and William Norris, who at this time were both separated. However, Michelle and her siblings lived with their maternal grandparents on Kendall Street, as Julia, their mother, often suffered a chronic illness. On the day of the 28th of May, Michelle was playing with her brothers and cousins behind the school she attended, when the brother and cousin wanted to go and get candy from the shop nearby. Michelle wanted to stay behind with her brother, who was 5, and her younger cousin. Now the park they were playing at, behind the school, was in full view of the grandparents' house, and so within a few minutes of her brother and cousin leaving for the candy store, the grandmother called them all in. She realised Michelle was missing. The older brother Billy and the cousin had gone to the store, which would have only taken around 10 minutes. On the way back, they saw Michelle and their dad in the car, but no one saw her coming home. The family started searching for her all over the place. They even asked the father, who lived with his mother nearby, if he had seen her, and at the time he claimed he hadn't. When the police got involved, they said Michelle would have only gone with someone she knew. Two days later, on the 30th of May, a firefighter recruit, helping to search for Michelle, was searching in a wooded area which was bordered by Higginson Avenue when he came across Michelle's body. This would be about a quarter of a mile from where she was last seen at the playground, and she was found behind an old club where a lot of people go fishing and also drink. It was an area that kids didn't tend to go down, due to the fact it was an overgrown sort of boggy area. She was found naked with her clothes neatly folded next to her. Autopsy results confirmed that Michelle had been sexually assaulted and suffocated. And the city of Central Falls reeled in horror of the murder of Michelle. And for years, this unsolved murder left a mark on the police force that no one could forget. New detectives joined old detectives in order to keep the investigation going as police resources dwindled over the years. It seems nobody was going to give up on the case. One thing came to light was that Michelle's father was a person of interest, and also he was the last known person to have seen Michelle, although when the family had asked him in 1988, he had denied seeing her, for reasons unknown. Also, it was back in the 80s, and there was no DNA analysis either. William Norris had been questioned over and again, but would say he couldn't remember. As it turned out, he did make a statement to the police, and he had seen Michelle that day and took her to buy some gum, which is when her brother and cousin saw her, but with the idea of taking her to his mum's after, but decided against it and dropped her back off at the playground. He had asked her to go to the grandmother's house to let her know she was back, but she was distracted and was looking over into another street where her friend was stood outside with an unknown man on her porch. However, William Norris did know the man at the porch with Michelle's friend, as his name was Joe Pelland. And people around the area said that they had been friends and used to hang out together. So why didn't he name him? So although the father remained a person of interest, there is more new information of someone else who became a strong person of interest, and that would be a man named Joe Pelland, who I mentioned earlier, who was the stepfather of Michelle's best friend Tammy Bellin, who lived just a few doors away from Michelle. So this seemed to be the man that William Norris was talking about in his statement. Derek Levasseur, who is an ex-detective in the area of Central Falls, and also grew up in the area, worked with a forensic psychologist, Chris Mohandy, on a program called Breaking Homicide, Little Girl Lost, and that's on Discovery. They spoke to Tammy Bellin, who is Michelle's best friend, and Tammy's mum, Marie Thomas, who was married to Joe Pelland. That certainly brought up new information. They said the day Michelle went missing, he told them that they were moving. They had been married for 2 years at this point, and Marie was friends with Julia, and both girls were best friends. So this sudden move puzzled Marie, as they had no problems with the landlord. When Marie wanted to go and help Julia with the search, Joe said to Marie, "You can go, but don't say anything." This was so confusing for Marie, but it was something that stayed with her, and she didn't know why he said it at the time. Marie said she was subjected to physical and mental abuse, and later found out that he had molested her daughter Tammy. This went to court, but he got off on some sort of plea deal, and is still in the area of Rhode Island. He could have possibly done the same thing to Michelle, as she played at the house often, and Joe often watched the kids whilst Marie worked. Joe Pelland has been described as a psychopath with a long rap sheet of abuse, violence and child molestation, and restraining orders from every partner he's ever had. Tammy said she was abused from the age of 5 and remembers Joe stroking Michelle's hair and being too close. When she used to come over, knowing that this is what he did to her, she would sit next to Michelle to stop anything happening. When asked if she thinks that Joe had anything to do with Michelle's death, she said yes. This was because the day after Michelle went missing, they were driving down Higginson Street, and Joe said, "Imagine if Michelle was found there." The day after that, Michelle's body was found in the wooded area of Higginson Street. Tammy also said Joe had OCD, have everything folded neat and tidy. She was also taken to the same location to be abused, the same place Michelle was found. And if we remember rightly, clothes were folded next to Michelle's body. When Derek Levasseur and Chris Mohandy interviewed Joe's brother John, who was in prison at the time, he said that Joe had admitted to him that he had killed a little girl called Michelle, and he had walked her there from the school, which is where Michelle had been playing in the playground. He described Joe as a child, as a violent, abusive child who had to be put in a psych ward when he was young. And like I mentioned before, everyone looked out for each other's kids. So if it had been a stranger in the area, he or she would have been noticed. And also, Michelle's mum said she would have only have gone off with someone she trusted. So it looks like in the programme, although it was circumstantial evidence, they were going to take it to the police to see if anything can be done. Hopefully one day there will be results. At the very least, Joe Pelland should be questioned about what happened on that day, or at least what he was doing. But if you want a more detailed version of this case, please watch Breaking Homicide, Little Girl Lost on Discovery. Let's hope this provides new leads to investigate this case further, and in the hopes of getting it solved after all the years, to provide closure for the family and friends of Michelle. At the school playground, Michelle's photo is up on a plaque at the entrance. Julia Norris said, "There are times I sit here when it's quiet and I think,